Welcome to Marketecture, where you can get smart fast with in-depth interviews of leading technology vendors. I'm Ari Paparo. I'm here with John Shankman from HTL Labs. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Ari. It's great to be here, honestly. Love the new project and love to be a part of it.
Okay, now tell me about the product you really want to talk about.
Sure. So then I can connect it to the reporting tool, right? So having a reporting tool that aggregates all of your data is critical, right? But all of that data is generated by someone. And in publisher ad tech, it's really generated by the ad code that you're running within the browser. And so going back to the idea that the ad server for publishers is complex, I think there's two things. A, publishers don't have to load an ad server today. They have to load header bidding frameworks. They have to do lazy loading. They have to do infinite scroll. Like, it's not just the ad server anymore. The world has become more complex than one ad server service. And then two, there's basically two things that are driving that complexity. One is now you need an engineer to implement all of that code on page. And two, you need the ad operators to understand how those services work, right? And like actually what's going on. And as I mentioned before, too often the ad engineers or just the engineers who are implementing ad code don't know how the services work, and the ad operators don't understand the on-code implementation. And so what we've got here, and I really think it's ahead of the curve in terms of what else is out there that's available in the market, is essentially a comprehensive user interface that a non-coding person or ad operator can log into, and they can configure the ad code that they want to run in their browser. So what ad units does Google Ad Manager load? What programmatic IDs do you want to load in Prebid? Out of the box, it runs Prebid and Amazon concurrently. That's an engineering challenge most of the time. How do you apply lazy loading and refresh to all of your Google Ad Manager ad slots? Normally, again, that's something that the engineer at the publisher needs to handle. Now you can log into our UI and push a button and A/B test those things. So we have essentially built a platform that allows non-coders to build their ad tech file.
Okay, so let me try to see if I understand this. So you put your code on the page instead of Prebid directly, and instead of Amazon directly, and instead of GAM directly. Is that right? Right. And then you're through configuration, you're telling the page how to lay itself out, where to put the ad slots and the size of the ad slots and the names of the ad slots and things like that.
Yeah, more or less. We have two implementation methods, one where we run GAM for the publisher and one where we do GAM on the page. I think just for sake of argument, let's just talk about if we're running GAM for the publisher. Let's say a publisher wants to implement GAM and Prebid and lazy loading, but they have their own GAM account and they feel like the legacy code is messed up. 320 by 50 is coming through on desktop, which is like a mobile ad size is coming through on the desktop. And they just feel like it's a legacy code, a lot of tech debt, and they want to take it off the page. And so, or they want to improve it. So they can take all of their ad code off of the page. They can log into HTL Bid, put the Google Ad Manager network ID, the ad unit name. So, and this is a perfect example. Like when you're an engineer implementing Google Ad Manager, you need to get into the code and define size mapping, right? Which is like what sizes are accepted on what device categories is defined by the screen width. We have a user interface for that. And so to your point, once you put the HTL Bid plat code on your page, you actually get a non-coding platform for managing all of your ad tech.
But I want to go just a little step deeper on what managing means in this case. So I'll run some scenarios by you. You tell me if it's supported. I want to add an SSP to my stack. Easy, right? I want to remove an SSP. Easy, right?
It's literally a switch.
Change the timeout on the header for a given SSP.
It's a global timeout.
So it's a global timeout. Sure.
Yeah, I think you could do that.
Okay. And then when it comes to GAM, what if I want to like change the size of a slot? Is that something I can do as well? But I have to configure it in GAM as well, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So like, let's say you want to work with a fancy rich media ad network and they're like, oh, you can load our ad on mobile, but the way it handles it, like you put a 560 by 400 in your middle 300 by 250 slot. You can log into HTL Bid, go to that slot, type in 560 by 400. You go into Google Ad Manager, add 560 by 400 to that slot, and then you hit deploy in HTL Bid and it's live.
Yeah. So the two systems need to be aligned in configuration for it to work. right?
Yeah, it's not replacing Google Ad Manager at all.
No.
It's
Do you have an API into GAM?
Yeah, I mean, we understand the GAM API pretty intuitively. Like, we're not updating ad units from our system yet. Like, you kind of need to do that.
You got to go into both systems. It makes sense.
Thanks for listening. To hear the complete interview, subscribe at marketecture.tv.